All right, let's jump into another deep dive.
Hmm.
This time, we're going to be looking at Neil Gaiman's American Gods.
Oh, excellent choice.
It's a great book. And what we're going to be looking at specifically is what this book, what this story, this kind of fantastical story,
Hmm.
tells us about America, about the essence of America.
Yeah, and we have some really interesting academic analysis of this book to guide us.
That's right, we do. And some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today gets really, really interesting. I mean, just to give you a little bit of a taste, we're going to be talking about things like forgotten deities, roadside attractions as sacred ground,
Hmm.
and a whole new perspective on the American dream. So get ready, buckle up. What we're really trying to uncover here is how Gaiman uses this sort of mythological lens to paint a picture of America, its cultural landscapes, its history, and really the fabric of its identity, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I found so fascinating about this book is how it's not just a story about, like, gods and monsters. It's a reflection on the idea of belief itself.
Right.
And how that's kind of evolved in America.
Right. And speaking of belief, the analysis that we're looking at today makes this pretty bold claim.
Okay.
It says that America is like a graveyard for old gods.
Wow, that's a powerful image.
It is.
And it really makes you think, especially when you consider the whole immigrant experience in America. When you think about it. Like, every wave of immigrants brought their own gods, their own deities, their own beliefs with them.
Right.
But as they started to assimilate into American culture, those gods, kind of like parts of their cultural identities, started to fade away.
Yeah, it's like this melting pot idea, right?
Exactly.
But it's not just cultures that are melting together. It's the gods themselves who are struggling to survive in this new environment. And we're talking about some pretty major players here, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We've got Odin, Anansi, even Cernobog, all trying to figure out how to navigate modern-day America.
Yeah. And one thing that the academic source points out is that this fading of belief, it's something that's really unique to America.
Interesting.
Other cultures have managed to hold on to their ancient traditions for centuries.
Right.
But America, it's different. So the question is, why?
Yeah, why is that? Well, I've always thought of America as this really young nation, always looking ahead, looking to the future, always kind of pushing forward. Maybe it's that forward-thinking mentality that doesn't really leave a lot of room for the old ways.
I think you're onto something there. The source makes the argument that America's identity is built on constant change, reinvention, a relentless kind of push toward the new. And it's almost like the past is seen as, like, baggage, something to shed, something to discard.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, to make way for the next big thing.
Wow. Which, that makes me think about another central theme in the book, the American dream.
Yeah.
Right? That idea that anyone can come to America and achieve success, prosperity through hard work and determination.
Yeah, the land of opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Gaiman, he doesn't present a simple rosy picture of that dream, does he?
No, not at all. He really explores both the allure of the American dream and the harsh realities. The struggles, the compromises, the disillusionment that people face when they chase after it.
Yeah. And he does that through these incredibly compelling characters.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like Mr. Wednesday, who, as we find out,
Spoiler alert.
yeah, spoiler alert, is actually Odin.
Right.
This powerful god, king of the gods. But in America, he's desperate to stay relevant.
He's almost a symbol of the old ways, clinging to a fading power, struggling to adapt to this new world. And I think it speaks to a tension that a lot of people can relate to, that struggle to hold on to the past while also trying to navigate the present.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, is the American dream even attainable anymore?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
What does it even mean in the 21st century with all its complexities?
Exactly. So Gaiman is really asking these big questions through this story. And the way he sets up the story, right? The setting of the story is so important.
Oh, absolutely. The landscapes are almost characters themselves.
Yeah, he paints these incredibly vivid pictures of vast highways, bustling cities, and, those strange...
A little eerie.
Eerie, yeah.
Roadside attraction.
Yeah, that you find kind of scattered across America.
Yeah, those are everywhere.
And it's not just about, pretty scenery.
Right. Oh, it's deeper than that.
These locations are like metaphors for America itself, full of history, mystery, and these remnants of fading belief systems.
Okay, But there's one thing I've always wondered about.
Okay, what's that?
Why do these roadside attractions, these often, kind of kitschy, artificial places, become these sites of power?
That is a great question. And the analysis we're looking at suggests that they represent something really unique about America.
Yeah.
This ability to create artificial yet compelling myths.
Interesting.
Like, think about it. Places like the House on the Rock.
Oh, yeah, the House on the Rock, the world's largest ball of twine, these larger-than-life spectacles that draw people in.
Yeah.
It's like we're taking these old, forgotten beliefs, transforming them into something new, something uniquely American.
Yeah, even if it's a little manufactured.
Even if it's a little manufactured, and it speaks to our fascination with spectacle,
Right.
larger-than-life experiences.
Yeah.
These roadside attractions become pilgrimage sites, not because of ancient history, but because of the stories we tell ourselves about them.
Right.
And those stories become powerful because they fill a void, a longing for something to believe in.
I love that. That's so insightful.
Yeah.
It makes me think about the seemingly ordinary places in my own life
Oh, yeah.
that hold like a special significance,
Yeah.
you know? Like that old diner I used to go to with my grandparents, or the tree we carved our initials into as kids.
Those are your personal myths. Those
Yeah.
little rituals,
Yep.
landmarks, they become part of your own personal narrative.
Right.
The stories you tell yourself about who you are and where you belong.
Yeah. And I think on that note, it's time for us to move into a new chapter of this deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready.
Because as we're about to discover, in American gods, the old gods aren't the only ones vying for power.
Oh, this is where it gets really interesting. Buckle up.
Get ready to meet the new gods.
So yeah, we're not just talking about Odin and Anansi anymore.
Right.
The world of American gods, there's a whole new pantheon of deities on the scene.
A whole new set of gods.
Yeah, and these are the gods of the digital age.
Ooh, that's interesting.
We're talking media, technical boy, and, those all-powerful forces of capitalism.
Yeah, it really is like a total paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Right? We've gone from worshiping these ancient deities to like bowing down at the altar of technology and consumerism.
Right.
But how did that even happen? Like, what caused this massive shift in belief?
Well, this is where I think Gaiman's genius really shines through.
Okay.
Because he's tapping into this very real phenomenon, the evolution of belief, right? As our world has become, increasingly digital, interconnected. Wait.
We've started to place our faith in different things.
Okay.
We believe in screens, in the internet, in that constant flow of information and entertainment.
It's kind of unsettling when you put it that way.
It is a little bit, yeah.
Think about how much time we spend online.
Oh, I know.
Scrolling through social media, consuming content. Like, is that our modern form of worship?
It's a question worth considering for sure. And the academic source we're looking at, it makes this really interesting point.
Okay.
It argues that these new gods, they're not necessarily evil.
Okay.
They're just different.
Different. Okay.
They reflect the values, the priorities of a society that's become obsessed with, speed, connectivity, instant gratification.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so they're not like evil in the traditional sense.
Right.
But they still demand our attention,
Oh,
our devotion, just like the old gods did. I
Mhm.
mean, we're constantly sacrificing our time, our data, even our privacy.
all in the name of, staying connected, staying up to date.
That's a great point. The sacrifices we make to these new gods, they might look different,
Right.
but they're no less real.
Yeah. And Gaiman really portrays that beautifully in the book.
He does.
The way these new gods, they exert their influence, the way they manipulate and control.
Yeah, sometimes without us even realizing it.
Right. Yeah, it's scary. So are we just blindly worshiping these new gods without even, like, questioning their power?
That's the challenge that Gaiman poses to us, right? Are we aware of what we're worshiping in the modern age? Are we conscious of the influence these new gods have over our lives, over our thoughts or behaviors, even our identities?
It's like we've traded in one set of deities for another without really stopping to think about the consequences.
Yeah, and this shift is particularly relevant to America,
Yeah.
a nation that's, built on the idea of progress, of constantly pushing boundaries, embracing the new. The source argues that America's Its relentless pursuit of innovation, its
Mhm.
willingness to discard the old in favor of the latest and greatest,
Right.
has created the perfect environment for these new gods to thrive.
It's like that old saying, out with the old, in with the new.
Yeah.
But in America, that cycle, it just spins faster than anywhere else.
Exactly. And it goes back to that central idea of America as a land of constant reinvention, right?
Right.
This inherent tension between tradition and innovation.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what defines the American experience.
Yeah. But what happens to those traditions,
Right.
those beliefs, those stories that get left behind in this constant churn? What
Yeah.
gets lost in the pursuit of the new?
That's the question that kind of haunts American gods. It's this
Mhm.
clash between the old and the new, the sacred and the profane,
Right.
that drives the narrative. And it's a clash that we see playing out all around us.
Yeah, it's true. We're all trying to find our place in a world that's constantly changing, trying to balance tradition with innovation, holding on to the past while embracing the future.
It's a struggle.
It is a struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Gaiman, he captures that struggle brilliantly.
He does.
Not through dry philosophical arguments,
No.
but through the power of story.
Yeah.
Through these vivid characters and their often conflicted relationships with belief.
Yeah. And it makes me realize maybe American Gods isn't just a fantasy novel. Maybe it's a mirror reflecting back at us,
Ooh, I like that.
showing us the myths we create, the gods we choose,
Mhm.
and the ever-evolving nature of belief itself.
Yeah. And that brings us to a question that I think lingers long after we finish the book.
Okay, what's that?
If America is constantly reinventing itself, what myths are we creating right now? That will shape the future.
That's a powerful thought. We're not just passive observers of this cultural evolution.
Right.
We're active participants.
We're shaping the myths and beliefs that will define America for generations to come. And that's where I think things get really, really interesting.
Oh, tell me more.
Because it means that we have a choice. We can choose to be conscious of the stories we tell ourselves.
Right.
The beliefs we hold dear, the values that we prioritize.
Yeah.
We can choose to shape a future that reflects the best of what this nation can be.
Absolutely. So what does this all mean for us?
Yeah, what does it mean for, the everyday people navigating this complex,
Yeah, this crazy world.
this ever-changing world?
I think it's a call to awareness,
Okay.
to pay attention to the stories that surround us, the narratives that shape our perceptions, our beliefs, our actions, to be critical thinkers,
Right.
to question assumptions,
Yeah.
to challenge the status quo.
Because those stories, those beliefs, they have power.
They do.
They can shape our individual lives, our communities, even the course of history. Wow, this deep dive has really been something else. American Gods. It's not just a fantasy novel, is it?
Not at all. I mean, it's a commentary, right, on American culture. Yeah.
On how we think about belief.
Unbelief. Yeah.
And how that's changing.
Yeah. And what I find so fascinating is how Gaiman takes these ancient mythological figures, right?
Right.
And he weaves them into modern American life.
Yeah, he makes them feel so real, so present.
It's like a reminder that these stories, these myths, they aren't just things of the past. They still have meaning for us today.
Absolutely.
And they're shaping how we see the world. It makes you realize that we're surrounded by these myths, these narratives, these stories that shape our perceptions, whether we're aware of them or not. So in the academic analysis we've been looking at, what are some of the key takeaways about how these myths function in contemporary society?
Well, the analysis makes this really interesting point about storytelling. It argues that America, because it's a nation built on immigration and reinvention,
Right.
has this unique ability to absorb and adapt myths from different cultures and then transform them into something uniquely American. So it's like America itself is this constantly evolving mythology.
Exactly. Always changing, always redefining its own narrative. And that brings us back to that final question we were talking about. If America is constantly reinventing itself, what myths are we creating right now?
Right, the myths that are going to shape the future. And it feels especially relevant now.
Right. Absolutely.
In our digital age,
Yeah.
with technology, consumerism, all of that playing such a huge role in our lives. What stories are we telling ourselves about progress,
Yeah.
about connectivity, about our place in the world? It's a big question.
It is. And what about the stories that get left behind?
Yeah.
The traditions and beliefs that maybe don't fit into this rapidly changing world.
Right. It's like Gaiman is exploring this tension, right, between the old and the new, the sacred and the profane.
Yes, exactly. He captures that so well.
Earlier you were talking about roadside attractions and how they've become like modern-day pilgrimage sites,
Yeah.
right? These places where we create our own artificial myths. Do you think that reflects maybe like a deeper longing?
For meaning in a world that often feels so chaotic,
Yeah.
so uncertain.
I think you're right. I think there's a very human need for ritual,
Mm-hmm.
for shared stories and experiences that connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
Right.
And in a world that's becoming, increasingly dominated by technology,
Mm-hmm.
individualism,
Right.
maybe those roadside attractions, they offer a sense of community,
Okay.
sense of belonging,
Yeah.
even if it's just temporary.
Even if it's fleeting. Yeah. It
Yeah.
makes you wonder, what other seemingly ordinary places and experiences have that same kind of significance?
Yeah.
Like, think about that old park bench where you had your first kiss,
Oh.
or that family recipe that's been passed down for generations.
Yeah, those are powerful things.
These little rituals and traditions, they all become part of our own unique
You
narratives.
do. And recognizing that power, I think that's the first step
Okay.
towards becoming more conscious creators of our own myths,
Our own myths.
both individually and collectively. So to everyone listening out there, we'll leave you with this. Pick up American Gods if you haven't already.
Yeah, give it a read.
And see what resonates with you. But more importantly, take a look around at your own world, at your own life.
Hmm.
What stories are shaping your community, your nation, your world? What beliefs are taking root that will define the future?
Because those stories, those beliefs, they have real power.
They do.
They shape our values, our actions, how we understand who we are.
And where we belong.
Exactly. And in a nation as diverse and dynamic as America, those stories, they have the potential to create a future that's both meaningful and inclusive.
A future that reflects the best of what this country can be. Well, that's about it for our deep dive into American Gods.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
We hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope that maybe it's given you some new ideas to think about and inspired you to go out and explore the myths and narratives that shape our